Welcome to your cosmic portal. Let the metamorphosis begin. Hey, I've decided I'm not going to be doing the whole chapter in one video. I do want to add that this was written in 1926. The way people spoke back then was very different from the way we speak now. The knowledge was different then. Make a note of that. If you come across something where you think, what are you talking about? We know what this is. Just try to remember this was a really long time ago. I remember when I first got this book, I did not understand it at all. It went way over my head. I put it on the shelf for a few years until I took some certificated classes at a Center for Spiritual Living, and then I read it again and it started to make sense. I will now start reading the book. Part 1. The Evolution of Man's Thought. Instinctive Man. If we traced man's history back into the dim past, we should come to a place where he did not consciously know himself. We should come to a place where instinctive man alone existed, for the self-conscious man had not yet evolved. Nothing can be more apparent than that man, as he now appears, is the result of growth and unfoldment. But in order to unfold, he had to have something from which to unfold. And since he is intelligent, he must have unfolded from an intelligent cause. Instinctive man, then, means that inner something, or life, which we do not see, but which is, of course, there. We might say that instinctive life is God in man, or the idea of God working through man. But if instinctive man is an idea of God, why is he not perfect? The answer is that he is perfect, but that as soon as individuality is evolved, he must be left alone to discover himself. Even God could not make a mechanical individuality. If man is created with the attributes of self-choice and free will, he must be let alone to make the great discovery for himself. Nature waits on man's self-recognition. We note that from the day when instinctive life brought man to the point of self-choice, it let him alone. And from that day, instinctive life has waited on man's unfoldment. It is true that during all this time, it has carried on the automatic functions of the body and has even silently told man what to do, but it has let him alone in all other ways. It may, and must, hold man as a perfect being, but it also must let him discover this fact for himself. During all of this time, however, instinctive life, or God, must be silently waiting for the great discovery to be made, and must always be ready to respond to man's advancement. We note this to be true along the line of man's progress. For instance, consider the discovery of any of nature's forces. We know that they must have always existed, but so far as man is concerned, they exist to him only after he has discovered and learned how to make use of them. Electricity was in reality in the universe when Moses led the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, but neither Moses nor any of his followers knew anything about it, so they did not receive any benefits from its use. This is true of any and all of the natural laws. They always existed, and as soon as understood may be used. In this way, instinctive life waits upon man's discovery of the natural laws and his discovery of himself and his relationship to the great whole. If this is so evidently true of all the forces in the natural world, we must expect to find the same thing to be true of those inner and finer forces within man. The unfoldment of these inner and finer forces through man is what we call his evolution. The first great discovery. The first great discovery that man made was that he could think. This was the day when he rose from the ground and said, I am. This marked the first great day of personal attainment, and from that day, man became an individual and had to make all further progress himself. Any compulsory evolution stopped when man became an individual, and from that day he had to work in conscious union with nature and her forces. But he did not have to work alone, for instinctive life has always been with him and will never depart from him. Instinctive life desires that man shall express more, and yet more, of its own limitless possibilities. Man is evolving from an infinite basis. Behind him is the great unknown, but not the great unknowable, for the unknown becomes known through man, and whatever more instinctive life is to do for him must be done through him. Nature must work through man in order to work for him. This is true all along the line of life and endeavor. The first great discovery of man was that he could think, plan, and execute. As the result of this discovery, he has built up a great civilization and all that goes with it. He has harnessed electricity to his inventions, tied steam and compelled it to do his bidding. He has laid waste forests, built cities, made the desert to bloom, and has thrown the lines of his commerce around the globe. Indeed, he has seemed to possess the earth. The inner sense awakens. But with all of man's powers, he has still felt a vague sense of something more, something greater, something further along, a sort of mystical inner sense of things, an instinctive urge, a blind groping after a great light. Disregarding all of his apparent power, man has still been unhappy, sick, lonely, and afraid. The cities which he built have crumbled into dust. The nations which he fostered have, one by one, fallen into ruin, and history alone remains to tell the tale of most of his endeavors. In spite of man's apparent power, he has suffered greatly, and death has crowned his life and work with a pall of darkness and uncertainty. The great question, why? The great question, why, has forever been upon his lips. Few indeed have been able to answer this question, and these few have passed by unheeded in the struggle for existence. Man has struggled along the weary road with a heavy heart and bleeding feet, only to be met by the grave. The lack of a sense of completion has beset his every pathway, and in his blind groping he has held up his hands in speechless anguish, and his broken cries have rent the air with supplications to an apparently unheeding deity. Why the suffering, the sorrow, the sin, the sickness, and a lifetime of trouble, only to be met at last by the grim and sinister tomb? Why? Man has sought the wise only to discover their foolishness. He has sought the learned only to find a lack of wisdom. Why? His cry has appeared to go forth into an empty nothingness. But hark! From somewhere a vague answer has come. Some subtle inner sense of things, some unknown presence has given answer, and a still small voice has said to him, Man, know thyself. The instinctive man has again spoken and told him to search more deeply into his own nature, to look deep within him for the answer to life. The hour has struck in the evolution of man when he can understand this voice to do its bidding. The greatest discovery of all time, mind. Man's response to this inner instinctive voice has caused him to start on the greatest adventure of his career, the discovery of mind. Man's first discovery of his ability to think was set aside as being too evident to take any notice of it. He could think, but what of it? Of course, it was proof that he was, but that was all. He had always been able to think. This simply gave him the ability to know his needs and try to supply them. This he had always done. The ability to think seemed to be an automatic thing. It came with him and would doubtless die when he died. The brain seemed to be an organ of thought, and, of course, when death stilled the brain, it would no longer operate. This was self-evident. The brain does not think. But the day came when some wise men said that it is not the brain that thinks at all, for if the brain of itself could think, then one could cut it out and it would keep right on thinking. No, the brain of itself could not think, and yet, without a brain, man could not think, which simply means that man needs a brain while here, but that the brain of itself does not think. The brain does not think, and yet man thinks, so behind the brain there must be a thinker. But where is the thinker? We do not see him. Have we a right to say that there is a thinker when no one has ever seen him? Yes, for can we name a single force of nature that we can see? Have we ever seen electricity or any other forces of nature? No, and the only evidence we have of their existence is that we see what they do. We have light and motive power, so we have a right to suppose that there is a force which we call electricity. This is true all along the line, for we see effects and not causes. We do not see the thinker. But to return to the thinker, we do not see him, but the proof of his reality is in the evidence of his works. We know that the legs do not walk, for, if severed from the body, they could not carry anyone very far. Cut off the hand and see if it could still hold anything in its grasp. Pluck out the eye and it cannot see. And so it is with all the organs of the body. There is a thinker and doer back of the organism who is using it for a conscious purpose. The metamorphosis is underway. Carry this grounded magic with you. And if your soul feels at home here, subscribe and return anytime to this sacred space. Until next time, walk gently and root deeply.